Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Henry Leung. I am a frontline controller working in tower and approach, and also had experience in en route sector as a planner. And what is planner? Planner is the role responsible for releasing aircraft to calculate time slot and consider the level assignment. So for releasing Hong Kong departures, have you ever wondered why, maybe for pilots in particular, sometimes you get to call ground for push right away after you call ready. However, on another day it could be delay undetermined and expect at least 2 hours delay while passengers behind are buckled up already. So today, I'm going to show you the factors affecting the considerations of Hong Kong ATC and how the process works. And hopefully by the end of this session, you have an understanding why there is a possibility of us not able to answer the question, what my delay is. Or maybe the aircraft on your left get to push first while its ready sequence is behind you. So we'll take a look on this area, what this question mark is. To start with, let's take a look on the SIDs in Hong Kong FIR. So the first one, please follow my cursor. BICO or Athena. BICO is within the Hong Kong departure airspace and goes straight to Guangzhou once released. And then the second sector, for transition route Victor 1 to 3, is go to the east sector in this area. Okay. Victor 1 go to the Dotmi, one of the busiest routes, and will go to the Guangzhou East. And for the Victor 2 to Victor 3, Anfa and Ilato, we will go to Taipei. The next one is the Victor 4 and Victor 5, and also the Ocean SID, but we'll go to the south sector of Hong Kong FIR. And these routes will go to Manila after leaving Hong Kong. And the next one would be the Victor 10 and Victor 12, going to the west sector of Hong Kong airspace, while the Victor 10 is going to metric levels to Zhangjiang airspace, and then for Victor 11 and Victor 12, we'll be going to the Sanya airspace. So the consideration is, once the pilot call ready, first step for the planner to consider the assignment of the time slot would based on the agreement with adjacent ACC to allocate level and release time slot for departures. And also, he will consider the longitudinal separations between the departures and also to merge with any overflights if there's any. Then consider the departure flows, maybe internal flow control or additional requirements from adjacent ACC. Last but not least, the LSWD. That would be the large-scale weather deviation. As you know, during the summertime, the weather is quite significant within the southeast China. So let's go into details and start with something easy. Victor 2 to Victor 3, the transition route to east sector, CDC, the clearance delivery, will work on behalf of the Planner East to launch the Hong Kong departures. Basically, the eastbound flights go to Taiwan, Korea, Japan, and North America. So because of the route structures, it only applies to Hong Kong departures during daytime until 1700 UTC. So there's quite a lot of levels and lower chance for full restrictions. However, during nighttime, middle of the night, optimum level may be used by the overflight traffics. So for midnight flights, Hong Kong departures, they may not be able to get to the optimum levels and subject to this suitable time intervals. The next one will be Victor 4 to Victor 5, going to south sector. The southeastbound traffic go to Philippines, Southeast Asia, and mostly the Indonesia flights, and also to Australia and New Zealand. However, because of the airspace structures, it's still using 10 minutes longitudinal separation between aircraft at same cruising level, and subject to their speed as well. And level could be occupied by overflight traffics. Why is that? Because it has to merge with traffic from Dotmi going southbound, from Tamot going to southeastbound, and also from Guangzhou and Shenzhen's departures through Sierra going to this area as well. So during nighttime rush, around 8 to 9 of Hong Kong evening time, the Australian and New Zealand traffic may subject to delay due to the overfly and merge of the aircraft. And next one is the Victor 10. It's Peking departures going to Siku. So most common flights would be traffic going to Dubai, India, or Bangkok. Occasional, there would be full controls imposed by the adjacent ACC, and also subject to the ad hoc airspace constraints. Cruising levels are constrained by destinations and routing beyond Siku. So there are two separate routes. Some go to the slightly northwest bound, and for the south side of the Europe. And the southwest side would be the Bangkok and the Middle East to Dubai. And also, levels are limited, especially for heavyweight flights. Because of the agreement, usually it only allows level from 341 above. So for the long-haul flights and the heavy flights, they are subject to PANAS coordination with the adjacent ACC. So sometime it may come back in a few minutes' time before they can get to call ground. And also, level may be occupied by overflying traffic as well. And the next one would be the Victor 11 and Victor 12 going to Lima 642 and Papa 901, Ikila and Epcal. There are more levels available in these routes. However, they also have to merge with overflights from Guangzhou, from mainland China, and also from the east side of China, the Shanghai-bound traffic. And beyond that, the planner has to consider the departure flows, and also the tower have to consider that as well. Most of these pointed in here are the internal flow controls. Usually that affecting us would be the weather deviations. So subject to the position of the convective weather, we may impose from Victor 1 to Victor 5 +2 or +3. Why is that? It's because, let's take a look at the airspace structure. So in this area, when we have weather and the merging between east sector, south sector, and departure airspace, the frontal is quite small and narrow. So whenever there is a weather over this area, we have to apply vertical separations more often, and the RT workload is quite heavy. So we have to impose such flows. And as you can see, sometimes because of the weather, it could be PCAM +4, BICO +5, and all departure +3. So the tower controllers have to juggle the departures on different SIDs and try to maximize the usage of the one-way. And furthermore, there's a large-scale weather deviation applied to the en route controllers. Say, for example, it's a Lima 642. Because this is a different route level allocations, you're using the double alternates, which means it will use single and the odd levels and the even levels going southbound, while the adjacent route, Mike 771, using similar levels going northbound. So whenever there's deviation towards the next route, we have to cut down the levels by half. For example, Lima 642, we will only use flight level 320, 360, and 400 going southwestbound, and while the other one going northeastbound is using the odd levels 310 and 350 and 390. So as you can see, the level availables would have cut down by half. And also during maybe bad weather deviations within Manila airspace, then Victor 4 and Victor 5 would the level would cut down by half as well. So for the long haul guys going to Sepno, the only level available is only 270 and 330, because I don't expect them to climb up to flight level 370. Okay. And 370 become only available for no man. So these are the contributing factors affecting our SIDs. So here comes the tricky part, BICO and DOTME. BICO already, the lucky bit is we're able to segregate from those overflights, high levels onwards flights away from the Hong Kong departures. And also departures from Macau, instead of merging with Hong Kong departures like other Victor routes, they have their own flow with China airspace. So BICO only work for Hong Kong departures. And then for the DOTME that we'll talk about later, is one of the most busier routes that go to the Shanghai bound traffic, the east side of China. So let's take a look at BICO first. Normally, what we need in Hong Kong is just 3 to 5 minutes apart, subject to the speed or the climb performance of the aircraft. However, China usually apply ad hoc flow controls on daily basis from version 1 up to version 10 usually. And sometimes it depends on their needs. Say for this example, Beijing is applying 20 minutes flow control for each aircraft departing from Hong Kong. This is rather a simple one, while the basic requirements is just 3 minutes between all the Hong Kong departures. Okay, and sometimes when they apply this, they impose these flow restrictions, they may come into with immediate effect. So even though some of the departures are already taxiing to a holding point, because of the impose of the restrictions, we have to stop them on taxiway. And they have to make sure that the slot is given by China, and otherwise they may put restriction on us, more harder restrictions on us. Okay. So to consider the flow control in minutes, like this one, 20 minutes is relatively easy. But some of the time, they would impose check for start, and that's the trickiest bit. Because as I said, the clearance delivery just need to follow the time for BICO, just 3 minutes apart. So normally, they don't need to call the planner in departure airspace. However, once there's necessary for check for start, we have to coordinate with Guangzhou airspace and make sure that the slot is given by them, and then we relay this message back to the pilots. And also in the evening time, oh, my apology. So let's take a look at these parts. And sometimes Guangzhou would impose some tricky restrictions, saying check for start for aircraft overflying China, joining some of a specific route, and they may impose something like this. So have to go over a level requirement over a point well within China airspace. Okay, and as you can see, there's 4 restrictions that need to be checked for start. So our clearance delivery and the flight data processor would help to check the routings of the aircraft. Once you call ready, we'll pass the information to Guangzhou, and then they will issue a slot. I hope it's as soon as able. And once we got it, we'll go back to the pilots. And sometimes, because of these changes of flow controls is with immediate effect, so the slot time, even though we gave you, may be changed. Okay. Sometimes it could be an advantage that the time slot has improved to an earlier time, but sometimes it could be another 2 hours delay. It all depends on how's the weather or the restrictions given by Guangzhou. The next one is DOTME. Normally, because of the general agreement between us and Guangzhou East Sector, there's more levels available, and they subject to the southern part of Shanghai, or from Shanghai and northern part onwards. Okay, so as you can see from these aerodromes available along the routing of Alpha 470 through Dotney, the planner East have to consider every single aerodromes in case they apply additional restrictions. Okay, for this example, at early in the morning, at actually it's just 0232, so around 8:30 in the morning, it's already version 6 of the flow restrictions. Okay, and then here has to figure out, okay, for Xiamen, Junjiang, Fuzhou, and Wuyisan, this level becomes only one level available for these aerodromes. And then for Jinjiang will be the 60 minutes flow control for the full areas, but Hong Kong departures is lucky, so it's excluding, it doesn't need to 60 minutes. But between Xiamen and then Jinjiang will have to be treated as one, and then have to be 10 minutes flow instead of 30 nautical miles longitudinal separations. So something like that. And most BCS aerodromes, Shanghai Hongqiao and Shanghai Pudong, sometimes they would impose significant flow controls. For example, with a lucky time of giving you 1 hour in advance, between 0100 and then to 0900, it will be 40 minutes flow control. So, but the trickiest part for the planner is they have to merge those full areas and apply the same longitudinal separation flow control, which is 40 minutes apart between Hong Kong departures, Macau departures, versus the overflights. Okay. And then after 6 hours, looks like the weather got worse. Then the Pudong bound traffic suddenly got 30 minutes flow control. Okay, it could apply with immediate effect. Then everybody got to hold, even though with different levels. Somehow the planner, for those already in air, they will try to negotiate with Guangzhou, and hopefully they can get an earlier slot, or maybe try to segregate from the overflights versus the Hong Kong and Macau departures. Okay, but once we get that, sorry, everybody expect 1 hour, 2 hours delay, and delay undetermined until we can figure out what the schedule and the sequencing is. So behind the scene of 129.9, the clearance delivery, what we do is once the pilot call ready, we put you in the queue. Then, subject to the routing requirement, we'll coordinate with the en route sectors, or if required, coordinate with the adjacent ACCs as well, for those need to be checked for start. And then this electronic strip underneath are the system that we're using in the tower. Then based on the informations on this area, we will coordinate with en route sectors. And if necessary, the en route sector will provide the restrictions and time slots. And we always hope that there's no time restrictions. So the easy bit is, for those no time restrictions aircraft, we'll switch to ground when appropriate, subject to the ground controller's workload. And for those that need time slot requirement, if once given by the area or the en route controller planners, we'll inform the pilots of their time slot and switch to ground when appropriate. But there may be chances that the time slot may not be achievable after coordinated with ground. Then we have to start all over again to do the calculations. And in case there's a changes of flow, then we have to hold you guys on taxi routes or remain in the bay, and we'll get back to you as soon as able when we got the slot. So whenever we experience extensive delays, flow control keep changing, or bad weather usually apply to the flights post-typhoon or after the extensive red lightning warnings, or even though sometimes when we have clear weather in the aerodrome, but the weather is really bad in other airspace, then we may experience extensive flow. This what's going to look like within the screen, or on the screen of our clearance delivery. As tower colleagues, when we experience this kind of extensive delays, we will open up 2 CDCs or use the tower departure planner to help out to do the coordinations. So sometimes when it's not that bad, usually delivery is only owned by manned by one person. Okay, so sometimes when you call the delivery, how come it's not listening, or how come it's no answer? It's just simply silence. Maybe he's doing the voice coordination with the en route controllers. So please bear with us. But other times when it happens like this with extensive delays, we usually open up 2 positions, one to talk to the pilots, and the others would do the coordinations. So the departure sequence also, what tower controllers have to consider would be how to juggle the time slots, try to split the SIDs as far as practicable because of the different routings, and based on the aircraft type as well, to medium to follow heavy or heavy to follow medium, something like that. And to comply with the departure flows, usually it's the internal one, like I showed you, Victor 125 plus 3, PCAN plus 4, something like this. Our objectives between the ground controllers and the tower controllers is to maximize the one-way capacity. So technically, these factors would affect what your delay is. The flow control from the adjacent ACCs, traffic occupied the same levels, aircraft type, backlog, weather, ad hoc airspace constraints, and sometimes apron congestions because of the inbound is need to take your bay, and maybe of the red light warning, something like that. But the ultimate factors that would affect you would be the weather for the internal flow, and the adjacent ACC, the external flow. And this will be the end of my presentation. I hope you understand more on how we work on departures by now, and I can assure you that none of us would like to keep an aircraft on ground once you call ready. Thank you. So is there any questions on the previous slides or anything? Thank you very much.
So if I may, I'd just like to add a couple of points. In discussions with Brian today, we talked about CRM and how the airlines work, in fact, looking at Katie, CRM specialist, they work very hard on this aspect of performance, crew performance, and the linking outside of the aircraft. And perhaps it's not seen just how, it certainly doesn't appear to us in ATC that we are being considered in a correct manner in CRM. And it's a lot to do with what Henry was talking about. As an experienced controller working in the tower in the background of CDC, and to hear the workload that's put on the clearance delivery frequency, generally speaking, the CDC is a very junior controller. They may not be a controller. They may be an assistant on their way up through the system. They own no airspace. They have no jurisdiction. And they get asked demanding questions. And when I talk to pilots about it, they say the delay figures we get off CDC are useless. They're terrible. But every time there's weather and backlog, the demand is out, what's my delay? So to just go through some of the issues that Henry mentioned there, the red lightning warning, a bird strike, a runway change, all of these, just the permutations and combinations of delays are enormous. So crews will call, we'd like to depart in 20 minutes through BCOL or DOTME, and what's my delay? Well, 20 minutes is a long time, and many, many things can happen. So you're asking for information that, generally speaking, is just not available. We cannot work out something accurately. So it certainly feels, as in the background of this situation, that we're getting a bad reputation. We don't have our finger on the pulse. We don't know what's going on. So hopefully from Henry's presentation, you'll get an understanding of that. What we're about to introduce here is ACDM, so it's probably very timely to talk about it. You may have seen TSAT times at the gate now. We have a system that's under trial. So ACDM, in demystifying it, is just sharing of information so that we're not, we reduce the amount of dialogue between us. It's a little strange that some of the forms that Henry put up there are shared with the IOC and your hubs, but what you're looking at there on that form is all we're going to tell you. So you essentially you have that information. If you're departing here and you're a local pilot, you're departing between 9 o'clock and 10:30 in the morning, this is a busy time of day. You can expect 20 to 30 minutes of delay. This is stock standard. So asking a question, what's my delay, and again working in the background. If you ask the question, you'll light up the frequency. And to watch some of the junior controllers working there in a system that we're trying to implement new technology that was designed around 400 movements a day when we first came here. We haven't changed any of it. So now we're at 1,200 movements a day, and you're putting this pressure on the system. We can't answer you. We're trying to introduce this new technology, but probably rest assured that you're going to get longer delays at the gate, because ACDM essentially is to reduce fuel burn and your time in queues at the holding point. No doubt if you get to the holding point, you see 10 aeroplanes in front of you, we roughly can release aeroplanes 2 minutes apart, juggling all of these restrictions. So you're 20 minutes from departure. So there's unnecessary fuel burn there, and that's what we're trying to do with this ACDM. So please be patient, but please expect some changes in your operating technique. Don't think ACDM gets implemented and this is bad, because I get much longer. Think about the fuel burn. So hopefully you arrive at the holding point, 3 or 4 airplanes in a queue. Can I get this?